Yo, Philly 254 living life. Back at it. So, let's talk about the Armory Crate software for the ROG Ally. Well, there's only one specific feature I do want to discuss, and the feature I'm talking about is the key mapping. Yes, there is key mapping and very intricate key mapping as well. You can bind multiple keys to one button on your Steam Deck. Plus, you have a secondary function or secondary key function as well. So let's get into that and talk about that for a second. Now, first things first, if you haven't already launched the Armory Crate, go ahead and launch it real quick. And you can do that just by pressing the little Armory Crate button, quick key button on your actual ROG Ally. It's on the right side underneath the start button. Once you press that, all you got to do is hit your right trigger and go to the right to where it says settings. From settings, you're going to go down to where it says controller mode, configuration. Now there's a desktop mode and a gamepad mode. Each mode is specific for what you're trying to, what area you're at in the actual ROG Ally. So for desktop, obviously while you're in the desktop, it's going to default to that. In the gamepad mode, that's more for gaming. So what you want to do is make sure you're in the gamepad mode and just click A on the configuration. Alright, right there you can see a full layout of all your buttons on your ROG Ally, right? So you can see them all sitting there hanging out, each one. From there, also on the left side, you'll see a left stick configuration. You can control the dead zones and whatnot. And same thing for the right stick, right beneath it, control the dead zones. The actual trigger buttons, you can actually control how sensitive they are or whatnot. And then the vibration, you can actually control the vibration, how much it vibrates, or if it even does vibrate, and you can actually individualize it from the left or right side. Pretty cool. But the main attraction is going to be the key mapping. So once you're in key mapping, just hit the right button, go over to where all you got various buttons. Each button can be mapped, as you can clearly see, but there's more to it than just that. So as I've already said, it's got the secondary function buttons at the very bottom. Those buttons are important. They normally don't do anything. They're mainly meant for secondary function, but you can map them any way you want to. But by default, they're for your secondary function. Now, each button has a primary function, which is, for example, left trigger is the left trigger. And then it has a secondary function underneath that. Now, if you press the secondary function button and then press the left trigger, it'll perform a secondary function. Pretty simple, right? So it's not that difficult. You can map each button in that same exact way. One thing I do want to mention is, you see how it's indicating the right and left under buttons. Those buttons do not show exactly as they say, because it's mirrored basically. So what looks like it might be the right by the diagram is actually left in the same way. Now the actual key mapping, as you can see, I've already changed the key mapping for my secondary buttons on the bottom. And we'll go a little deeper into that in just a quick second. But just want to kind of FYI you on that. What looks like left isn't left. What looks like right is not right. It's just mirrored. Just imagine your ROG, your Ally just flipped the other way, and that will actually make more sense to you if you think of it that way. It's kind of weird. I wish they would have just did it straight up, but whatever. I ain't tripping. So anyway, you got your key functions, you got your key buttons or whatnot, and you can choose whichever one you want. So by default, they just do what you would imagine they would do. But also you can always alter them. So for example, we're going to click on that left button. Now from within the configuration screen for each individual button, you see a whole lot of options which you can do with it. So for example, that left trigger button, you can make it be the right trigger or the B or Y button. Basic, right? The actions, you can actually make it perform certain actions, specific actions, open up the task manager or whatnot. You can make it be the A or B or F1 button or even enter button for your keyboard, as if it was a keyboard connected. Same thing with the numpad. You can map it to anything. Same thing with the mouse, and then you can even combine button functions. As you can see, I have a macro already set up for the Alt key, which is specifically the left Alt key and the Enter key. I had it that way because Street Fighter 6 originally had this issue where it kept opening in mirror mode. If you don't know, press Alt and Enter, and it changes it from mirror to full screen mode. So I just had that map so that way I can just make it go full screen. I figured it out. So I don't actually need that macro anymore, but it's still there. All right. Now, once you do that, it's rinse repeat with every single button that's in there. So you can configure them however you want to. If you don't like how you configure them, you think you mess it up all the hell, you could just press Y to reset to default. You can take a look at the back or front views by pressing the RB or LB, right button, left button, to see the front and back view without actually having to go down to where it says secondary functions or whatnot. Once you finish, press B and you're out of there. You save it's automatically gonna save it. Now here's the one thing that's real cool. If you go to desktop mode and take a look at it, it's the same exact thing. It's just each button is configured differently, and it's going to automatically go to desktop mode for you. Or not say desktop mode, but switch to desktop mode. Now on the left side of the Ally, there's an actual command center button. If you press it, it's going to bring up the command center. Now I pressed it while I was doing this little demonstration, but the recording software doesn't catch it apparently when I press the quick key buttons on the side, so you don't see it. I see it as I'm recording it, but you don't see it. But it looks literally like where it says edit command center buttons. It looks literally like that. From there, you can go to game profiles. You can go to control layout or control mode and manually switch the control mode from desktop to auto to game mode if you want to. Now, there's also an option to where you can set up control modes specifically for each game. All you have to do is just go to your actual Armory Crate, where you're selecting the game. Select the game or just press X while you're on the game, and it's going to bring up the control mapping specifically for that game. That's what I did for Street Fighter. I had an issue where I was playing and I kept accidentally hitting the actual secondary buttons, and then it would pop up Task Manager and all kinds of weird crap. So I just turned off the secondary buttons whatsoever. There is no secondary buttons while I'm playing Street Fighter, but that only happens for Street Fighter. Now, this key mapping only takes effect when I'm in auto mode. If you don't have a key mapping set up specifically for a game, auto mode will just be the default gaming mode that's automatically set up regardless. So if you want a specific key mapping, you got to make sure you're in your actual gaming mode specifically. Otherwise, it's just going to go to auto mode, and auto mode is the default, and you're wondering why your key mappings aren't working. All right. This is pretty cool. Of course, obviously, I've dabbled in the key mapping for the Steam Deck, but I like this one. I actually like this one better. It's very, very, very detailed. It allows you to do a degree of things that you can't even do on the Steam Deck with its key mapping, with the key bindings and whatnot. That's pretty cool. I do like that. I gotta double check. It might let you do that. I don't know, but at least from what I've used it for, I couldn't do some of the things it has, especially with the secondary key functions abilities. That's something I don't think the Steam Deck really has. I've never seen it or heard of it. I'll try it and see, but I doubt it's there. But it's definitely pretty cool. Considering this is more of a straight up PC than like a gaming machine. I'm throwing in quotations, gaming machine. This is actually pretty cool that it gives you the ability to bind the keys, secondary keys or secondary functions to your face keys, because there are plenty of games, for example, like trying to think of a game. What was the game? Bit Battle Remastered. That can kind of benefit from some of that, because it's got a lot of buttons on that game, because it's not really meant for keyboard. I mean, not really meant for game controllers. So it's got a lot of buttons to be pressing on that. So this definitely is pretty helpful. If you like more ROG Ally, ROG Ally news, walkthroughs, gameplays, lives, reviews, like and subscribe. Cruise through the playlist. And I'm out.